The way of gratitude. There is likely no believer unaware that our salvation comes by the grace of God and Christ. Despite this, we sometimes mistakenly think that we are saved, not by God's grace, but by our own faith. Our faith is merely the means by which we accept the salvation that has been accomplished in our hearts. The faith itself is not the element that achieves salvation. This is like receiving a vaccine to prevent a disease. Without the syringe, you cannot receive the vaccine. But the syringe itself does not have the power to prevent the disease. Similarly, we must never forget that our salvation is given solely by the grace of God. Recognizing this helps us understand that the life we live after receiving salvation is an undeserved gift. This perspective enables us to live the rest of our lives in gratitude, seeking to repay God's grace and serve others. If our lives before salvation were centered on ourselves, our lives after salvation should be lived for the sake of others. This is the very reason God made us Christians and invited us into the grace of salvation. It is also the way we can repay the grace we have received from God. One of the ways for the saved to live for others is by helping them hear the good news of the gospel, just as we did. In truth, it requires much effort and sacrifice to lead someone to accept God's grace, because, like anyone else, it is not easy for people to believe the gospel the first time they hear it. We must remember that when non-believers begin to accept the gospel, it is often due to their relationship with the person sharing it, rather than the content of the gospel itself. Therefore, whether the gospel is received or rejected can depend greatly on the relationship we have with those who do not yet believe. Of course, this does not mean that all responsibility falls on us. It simply means that our efforts and sacrifices can lead to better outcomes. Just as it was for us, the place where non-believers will hear about faith is from believers. If they dislike us or see us as unfaithful, the likelihood that they will accept the hand of salvation we extend to them diminishes. Thus, we who are already saved must strive to be trustworthy and faithful, even in the eyes of those who do not believe. This is because we, the early believers, are the testimony of faith and the evidence upon which they can base their confidence. Moreover, before we accepted faith, it was not the words alone that intrigued us, but rather the sight of someone who believed, through whom we saw God and the world of faith. We have received grace from God, a grace that is not only for us, but also necessary for those who do not yet believe. Reminding them of this grace of salvation is indeed the reason we have been granted salvation. Just as God called us, He is calling others, leading them to the blessed and beautiful world of new life. To those who have received new life under the grace of salvation, I hope that you will live a new life by spreading this grace of salvation, becoming a valuable instrument of the Lord used to save souls, each more precious than the whole world.
구독, 좋아요, 알림 설정 해주세요. Subscribe, like, set notifications.